Get on the funky train, yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're listening to Grace, Geltman, and Weld on the Hammer Factor. Take it away, boys.
All right, welcome to Hammer Factor episode, what are we at here, 65. My name is John Grace, producer here of the show. On the horn with me, we have Policy Director for the Outdoor Alliance, Louis Geltman, and owner, co-founder of Immersion Research, John Weld. Fellas, it's been a while. Welcome back.
Yeah, a little bit of a summer break there, huh?
Yeah, what have you guys been doing?
Went and got the microphone out of the pawn shop.
I've been not boating, I could say that.
And the white salmon is at 1.5, not the tiniest hair above 1.5. It's going to be, I'm calling it right now. I've called this for months, that by this fall it's going to be lower than any of us have ever seen it. It's like, it is as low right now as it was in the dog days of October, and it's not even August yet.
Well, the green's at about 9 inches, maybe a little higher, and we've got 5 inches of rain in the forecast starting on Wednesday. So,
how are housing prices in Nashville?
Not friendly. Not friendly.
Mm.
All right, well, we got an exciting show lined up here for you guys. So, are we going to get back on some kind of routine here? Where are we at? Talk to me. I can't get an email back from you, John. Louis, you're off kayaking all the time. I mean, we owe something to Hammer Factor Nation here.
Right. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the plan.
Lay it on me.
We're going to do 12. We're going to lock in 12 episodes this year. Right?
And we're going to release them on the first day of the month.
I like it. And then we should also not promise, but a lot for a few special editions as events arise.
We can pull that off.
I think we can do that.
Louis?
I like it. I hope we're not over-promising here, but
12. All we've done is promise 12.
Oh no,
shows.
I believe we can do 12. I'm the first of the month thing is a little worrisome for me, but I think we'll make it happen.
Well, scanning through the listener mail here, it looks like about half of them are directed towards you, Louis, so you have to be in on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm in. I need somewhere to vent my left-wing political views.
What do you got?
Huh?
What do you got?
I don't know. I'm sure it'll come out later. In the natural course of things.
So tell me about your observations, John. I'm reading through our show notes here. Tell me about some observations of paddling in the gorge, other than there's no water.
Well, I've been here almost a full year, and I'm still learning a lot. But there's definitely some differences between paddling out here and paddling out east.
Okay.
No question. For one thing, there's water out east. That'd be A. And it's a weird thing because there is a time here where the boating stops. And maybe in good years it's later than others, but it just stops, right? There's just nothing left to do. But out east, it could rain any weekend. That's always been the case, though, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's like you exist without hope here in the summer.
Right. So I flew back east a couple weeks ago, and I boated like 6 out of 6 days. Just everything was running. The day I left, the upper Yacht was running 7.5 feet. Upper Blackwood was running 4,500 CFS. The connoisseur's level. We ran the upper one day at like 3.5 feet one day, right? And you come back here and there's nothing going on. Also, I have to bring something up. When we did have, everyone's talked about how you paddle out here, the water is so deep, like everything's deep, right? So I got a brand new Machno. I paddled it once on the Little White, right? No problem. The second time I took it, like 3 days later, paddled Little White again, knocked a hole in the stern. right? Knocked a hole in a boat that was paddled
Not
twice.
through. You just dented it.
It was it was all but through.
Wah.
So I thought this was a remarkable event. I started telling people, hey, I knocked a hole in my boat after 2 days. They're like, yep. I'm like, what do you mean, yeah? I think I had the same Hydra Mustang for like 2 decades on the East Coast. Right?
Oh.
My Brap looks as good as new. It could last another 10 years probably. And I come to find out that you can paddle a boat out here about 4 or 5 months. So we go to build a skirt rack at our shop here, and I'm like, I got to call Snowy and get some cockpit rims. And Max is like, no. We can get cockpit rims. I'm like, yeah. 10 minutes later, there's like 45 broken boats on our loading dock around town. I'm like, okay, we need 4. I don't need 2 dozen. So there's that. I mean, and you talk about stern taps, which was sort of an abstract concept, but to me, it's like now I'm like, this stern tap's going to ruin my boat.
The rocks are a little more vicious.
They are for sure. There's no question about it. However, there is some pretty remarkable paddling. That is when there is water, it's pretty remarkable.
Well, to be fair, it's been raining since April of last year.
Right.
Here. I mean, that's no joke. It's been
No, I know.
raining since April of last year. Not April that just went by, but the year before. It hasn't stopped raining to right now.
Right.
So it can't last like that forever. Or maybe this is the new norm. I mean, who knows?
Well, what was the level when you tapped your stern?
2.8 maybe.
See, there's your problem right there. You can't whinge about the Northwest not having water and the rocks being sharp and breaking your boat when you're running a little way to 2.8. I gotta stand up for
I broke a boat
the homeland
that was
out here.
2 days old.
You didn't break it.
2 days old. The dent was as seriously as big as a toaster. I mean, it was gigantic. I'm not kidding. And the gouge you put in the stern was I mean, a millimeter from going through the boat. I'm just saying.
2.8.
Yeah, it was too low. No question. I wouldn't do it that low again. I'm not going to lie about that, but still.
What's your minimum? What's your cutoff, Lewis?
I'd go 2.8.
I'm about 3 feet, man. I think that's about.
That used to be my cutoff, and then I don't know. Times got grim out here.
We moved out here and all the water evaporated.
Oh man.
I would like to. I went up to the Callahan, just like spent some time up the Sea to Sky a couple weeks ago. I went to the Callahan race, which is awesome. Just like super fun teams race. Just like super good community, and the Callahan is just such a all-time classic section of whitewater. But the water, the water was pretty low up there, and I have to say I'm ready to hand off the crown for crustiest community about water levels from the gorge to the boys in BC. Those guys will whinge about the water level when it's like anywhere else people would describe it as like flood. like they would come down here and be like, the little lake's 4 feet, I guess. Like, so
that's so true.
Congratulations to you guys.
So Lewis, when you go up there, where are you camping at? Is it like a communal setup? How does it work if somebody wanted to come up to the Callahan race?
For the Callahan race, there's like a big party, kind of like a big turnout, just a little down the road from the takeout. There's a lot of people still camping most of the summer in the parking lot at the Checamus. I think things got a little tenuous up there for a while. Like there's a bunch of $1 million condos with crusty $1 million house owning types whinging about kayakers living in the parking lot up there. But I think what happened is it turned out that it's actually Crown land, so they can't actually evict the kayakers. So it seems like things have cooled out a little up there. But I don't know, I wouldn't want to like encourage a bunch of people to go up there when things are a little tenuous. I don't know. Just if you go up there, just be cool. I don't know, ask around.
Dude, I say go up there. Make your presence known. Let's colonize the place.
Although the Callahan's out of water.
We got to start moving more north as the climate changes anyway. So soon we got to like claim some of that stuff.
It's changed so much up there, like just the amount of people. I mean, not kayakers, but just like people from Vancouver who are up there on the weekends, especially now. It is madhouse. It's crazy.
The last ski resort in the country is going to be Revelstoke. That's my prediction.
Why is that? That'll be the last one that has snow.
Yeah, the last. You just circle around the interior of Canada until that's it. So, and the other thing is the scale of boating. To get back to what I was saying earlier, the scale of boating out here is on so much bigger scale. It's to me, it's like paddling out east is like paddling, or is like skiing really good resort skiing, and kayaking out here is like backcountry touring. It's just a much bigger scale. Yesterday I'm trying to hike it. Someone said there's this really steep creek. It's called like the West Fork of Mayor Creek. West Fork of Mayor Creek. You know what I'm talking about? Major Creek, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm gonna go hike it and see this thing. In Appalachia, you'd be like, okay, it's an hour hike down to the River Gorge. You can screw around, see what's going on. So I drive up here. I find a place to park. I start hiking, and the wilderness out here is kind of intimidating. About 10 minutes in, I step on a bee's nest. I got stung like 30 times. Running out of there, get back to my car. I try a reassault a little farther up the road, and you start hiking, and you finally get to this expanse of a gorge. It's gigantic, right? And you realize it's going to take you like climbing equipment in 4 hours, and who knows what poison oak and rattlesnakes, everything else to get down to this thing, and you kind of throw in the towel. It's just a very different scale of adventure out here.
Me and Nate Klama went for a pilgrimage up to the headwaters of the Little White a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably like a 4 or 5 mile out hike out, and then about a mile of bushwhacking up this nondescript knob out in the middle of the Indian Heaven Wilderness, to the point that Nate had identified with GIS as the highest point of the drainage. Went and surveyed the drainage and made some offerings to the rain gods in hopes of a strong winter. All of the mosquitoes that are not hanging out down here in the gorge because of the wind are apparently living up there in the Indian Heaven Wilderness, I can report.
Did you guys day trip that?
Yeah. Yeah, I've not seen mosquitoes that thick in years. It would not be a good camping spot.
I got a wild water boat.
Oh.
A Millennium. You guys ever heard of the Millennium?
That's my pick. That's my top attaining boat of all time.
Is it? So I got one.
Yeah.
And the last time I paddled one was with you, Weld.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah,
that was a paddling high point.
You love that, don't you?
Were you? Wait. If I remember correctly, this is a trip where you swam, attaining Dimple.
Dimple, that's what it was. People ask me all the time which rapid it was, and I knew it wasn't Cucumber, but it was Dimple.
Yeah.
Dude, it was scary as hell. I couldn't roll that thing to save my life. Was washing up on rocks. It almost pinned. I thought I was going to break it. But anyway, I'm back in the game now. So
I hope this gives solace to every learner out there who's swam at Dimple, probably like this week.
Right.
Oh, dude, I got hammered at Dimple. It was brutal. But anyway, I got one of these boats, and I've done it 4 times now. So I'm making a comeback. So whenever you're ready, Weld, it's a comeback, dude. After a couple days, you can figure it out. It was not a good idea to. And looking back, I'm like, you know what? He purposely sandbagged me on that, knowing that I was going to get my lunch ate.
Well, the thing is I was under the impression if you're a really good paddler, you should be able to hop in a downriver boat and attain anything right away. And so I took Daniel Delavan out for that, and that was immediately proved to be not the case. I've never seen it. Yeah, Daniel was profoundly unhappy with the situation. Let's just put it that way. So I knew it was not going to work, and that's why I thought it'd be a great idea to take you.
Sweet, I love that. At least it's on the table now, but I'll tell you, it's a quick learning curve, and I'm really starting to kind of enjoy it, especially for attaining. So,
yeah.
Man, all right. So Lewis, we have not heard from you. How's the new Zinky doing? What's going on in DC? Is everything fucked, or are we back on top?
I don't know. There's so much going on. It's like I feel like it's been so long since we've recorded. I don't even know where to start, but it's definitely been a super busy spring and summer. Usually things are a lot more chill in the summer than they have been this year, but One thing that may be of interest is we've been doing a bunch of work on the forest plan revisions for the Grand Mesa, Uncompahgre, and Gunnison National Forests in Colorado, the GMUG. And part of that is a Wild and Scenic River inventory process, and AW is working hard on getting a bunch of new Wild and Scenic Rivers designated in Colorado, including like Obi Joyful, Slate, some other manky-ass creeks that I don't know that much about, but I'm sure you Coloradans are real into. There's a
God, a dagger to the heart. I mean, Obi Joyful is the cleanest river that's in the state.
I'm just joking. That is not true. That's even worse than me. Yeah, there's a comment period. It's like kind of a soft deadline that is actually today. Not today by the time you're hearing this, but the Forest Service is definitely accepting submissions on a rolling basis for this. So go to AmericanWhitewater.org, check out their public comment opportunity on this working draft revised plan for the GMUG. There's some opportunities to say a thing or two about some of these rivers, and that would be super helpful.
I mean, what is the cleanest run in Colorado? Big South?
Big South.
Obi Joyful?
I've never run Big South, but I mean, dude, like Vallecito is all time.
Vallecito's manky.
Vallecito is not manky
Compared to Obi Joyful?
I've never run Baker's Box, but that has the reputation of being all time.
Yeah, that's...
Big South could have been like any river in West Virginia.
Except
Gore is all time. You don't like Gore? I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere, but it's sick.
But it's as manky as it gets. I mean, it's covered up with water, but I mean, like, if you just pull a little water out, it's mank heaven.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
you
with
can say that about
Brayson.
any river. I mean, the Little White's mank heaven if you're out there at 2.8.
Agreed. That's my whole point. Yeah.
I don't know. I think Obi Joyful is one of the cleanest creeks in the state.
But your boat is touching rock like the entire time.
Not if you go at the right level.
I don't know.
We need to get the guys on from the Obi Joyful race and see how that went.
Whatever. You still want to get it designated as Wild and Scenic, so go comment.
The Big South is where I finally understood why all these people were wearing dry tops out west. Because previous to that, I didn't really paddle out west at all, and I'd always see people wearing dry tops in Colorado in the summer. I'd be like, those guys are such pussies. And I put on.
I saw a guy wearing pogies on the middle yesterday.
And we got to the put-in, and I had a shorty with me, and someone said, you better bring a dry top. And I stuffed one in the back of my boat. It was actually a show sample. We were on the way back from a trade show. And we got to the put-in, and I was like, holy shit, it's freezing. I took the dry top out.
All right, well, since we said every river in Colorado was manky and called everyone who paddles their pussies, let's move on before we dig any deeper hole here, Lewis.
I'm saying the Big South was not manky, and I'm saying they were not pussies for wearing a dry top.
That's not what I got, but anyway, go on.
Oh, man. Poor Colorado. Those guys are laughing all the way to the high water bank right now.
Dude,
we're sitting here whinging about low water middles and stern taps, and those guys are in high water heaven.
I just got done with a family vacation to Telluride, and let me just tell you, there's still like 10 feet of snow up above 13,000 feet. I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
That's awesome. They deserve it.
They're getting it.
So anyway, there's like a bunch of new protective designation bills introduced that we're jazzed about. There's like 3 in California, Central Coast, Northwest California bill, and a San Gabriel's bill. All of them have some Wild and Scenic River components to them. Do a nice job of kind of like balancing bike protections with new wilderness designations. Good bills. They all had a hearing along with Wild Olympics, which is a bill to protect the Olympic Peninsula, and there's a ton of wild and scenic stuff in there. Tom O'Keefe has done a ton of really good work on that. That was pretty close to making it into the public lands package last go round. We didn't get it, but we're kind of like, I don't know, just kind of back at the beginning in terms of pulling together worthy protected designations bills, thinking about what the next public lands package might look like. So that's going good. Recreation not red tape got reintroduced, hoping to get a hearing on that later in the summer. And yeah, I don't know, plenty of other stuff. The Forest Service is working on updating the way they apply the National Environmental Policy Act, which is everybody calls NEPA. NEPA is the law that basically requires the agency to do environmental analysis when they take major action. So like anytime you hear about an environmental impact statement or an environmental assessment, NEPA is what requires them to do that. And they're proposing to like radically roll back the opportunities for public engagement in this process and the size and scope of projects that basically would not have to have any environmental review. So this is potentially a pretty big deal, pretty alarming. We'll have something going out about that later this week. So if you're not on the Outdoor Alliance email address list, you should be. And I don't know, more to come. It sounds super nerdy, and it's definitely like technical and painful, but it's important. So check it out. So I don't know. That's kind of what I got going on, among other things.
You know what I find interesting? So you've got this NEPA thing, and I mean it's being seriously considered currently right now to not have to do these environmental assessments before like a major logging operation or something like that. That's kind of what this is geared around, correct, Lewis?
Yeah.
But you can't get to the table something like recreation, not red tape, because land managers will freak out if a group of guys go in there with shovels and work on a trail or something. Like, how do you get to a balance there? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, why can't we just go in there and build some trails?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, I think trails construction and stuff like that, I mean, like that needs to have some sort of planning process around it too, generally speaking, to be done right. And, I think the problem is that right now there's like an imbalance between the amount of process that's required for something like that and the amount of process that's required to go cut the forest down.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I think sort of restoring that balance and making sure that the agencies are prioritizing things appropriately is, a big part of what we're trying to do here. It's like, for years and years and years, the priority of the Forest Service is to like get the cutout, and that's how all the land managers get evaluated. Like when they get their performance review, it's like, how many board feet did you get out? And, one of the things that's good in that recreation, not red tape bill is it's making sure that land managers are getting evaluated on how they're meeting recreation goals too. Like, are they, maintaining trails to standard? Are they approving new special use permits? Are they, are people generally stoked when they go visit the forest, or are they like, things are kind of a disaster here, And so I think a lot of it is about just sort of reorienting the agency culture, which is something that takes time,
Yeah. Like the recreation, not red tape is like, definitely have doing events on state and federal land. I mean, that is something that it always seems to work out, but you have to go through so many hurdles and build so many relationships before a land manager thinks you're not the boogeyman. And then over time it becomes good, but it's amazing how resistant it is to something that's incredibly low impact and how open and accepting it is to extractive things. And I'm not saying don't do the extractive things. I'm just saying, come on.
Totally. And it's about like, it's like those guys, the people who work at the Forest Service, like they just don't have incentives to sort of stick their head out and try something new. And it's, it's about changing that culture. And it's like when you find a, progressive land manager who's, thinking creatively about these problems and like wants to work with people to like make things happen. It's like that person is a resource, It's like almost like when we have these higher up meetings with the Forest Service in DC, sometimes we'll just like call out people who we think are killing it, be like, like this guy out here who works with BLM and was responsible for like the Sandy Ridge trail system, kind of southeast of Portland, where like this guy gets it. He's like thinking creatively about these things. He's getting projects done. Like you guys should like give him a promotion or like learn more about what he's got going on down there, because like this is the kind of examples we want to repeat. And it's like it's always easier when somebody's done it before, and if you can point to like something, a place where the agency's doing a good job with something, that can go a long way, because then the person who's sort of dragging their heels is like, okay, I don't have to stick my neck out to do this too much, like somebody's already done it.
Dude, Russell Fork River breaks Interstate Park. You should bring in Austin Bradley. He's the park superintendent there, land manager. He has been incredible about paving the way for recreational users.
Sick. It's good to hear.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah,
man. Anything else there, Lewis?
That's all I got.
How's the new Zinky doing?
Ah, man, he's a piece of work. I mean, just like very similar to what happened with Pruitt leaving EPA and Andrew Wheeler coming in. It's like you replace somebody who is just like kind of a cowboy, kind of an idiot, with somebody who's like a very sophisticated operator for extractive industry. And like, that's what Bernhard is. It's like he's not stupid. He's just, not working in our interest. So,
Lewis, we got to get you in there, dude.
That'd be fun.
We got to get you in there. We'll be calling you from like...
That would be, yeah.
That would be super fun. Well, we have some interesting news here. So I got an email from Tom Semenuk. Am I saying that right, Lewis? Semenuk?
I think it's Semenuk, but...
Semenuk. From Tom Semenuk. And anyway, a buddy of his, a guy he knew, Scott Laney, out of Boise, had an Outburst, a Dagger Outburst that he wanted to sell, and he put it up, and maybe he put it on like the local listing and classifies. I'm not exactly sure all the details here. We'll get those. But anyway, put it up there for $250. Tom sees it and he's like, dude, you don't understand. That's an Outburst, and it's a saw blade Outburst. It's worth way more. And he cued him into the Hammer Factor, and he started showing him some of the prices that you can get for an Outburst these days. I mean, some places they're going close to what a new boat goes for.
What kind of new boat?
Any of them.
Like
whatever.
a Pelican?
No, I'm serious. Have you not been following the Strategic Outburst Reserve Coalition?
No, I can't say that I have, no.
Anyway, these guys had a good idea, and this was kind of totally their brainchild. They were kind of, smitten with Lewis and Outdoor Alliance, and I should be serious. They were inspired by some of the things you talk about and some of the issues that you bring up here on the show and that are working on. So, anyway, they decided to get together, and they're going to give away they're going to auction off this Outburst here as a part of the Hammer Factor. Hammer Factor Nation, listen up. If you ever want an Outburst, this is one to get a hold of. And all of the money is going to be donated to, and two-prong here, to the Whitewater Park and Outdoor Alliance. So this is your
This boat's in Boise, right?
In Boise, yeah. But we'll get the guys on the show here in a little bit and see what they can come up with. But anyway, cool opportunity to get your hands on an Outburst saw blade and to support some good causes.
I'd love to paddle one of these Outbursts back to back against like a Ripper.
That'd be so sick.
I used to love the Outburst.
Do you think there's
back
ever
in the
going to
day.
be like a 10-foot Ripper?
I do.
No.
I think it's due. I
No,
think its time has come.
no, I disagree.
I paddled the Outburst relatively recently, and the only thing that doesn't feel that good is like your knees feel super low compared to a modern boat. But like the hull shape still that's pretty darn nice, man. Like pivots pretty well, surfs pretty well. It's like quite fast.
And how long is that thing, you reckon?
In the tens, high tens.
Yeah, well,
It's good.
Shane, I hate to say it, but I think the medium Ripper is surpassing the Brap as my new favorite boat.
Really?
Well, listen, the Brap had its day. You can't be number one forever. right?
And what do you like better? I felt like the medium was too squishy. I felt like the large was a more comparable boat. I really liked it. I really liked it.
I don't know. I haven't paddled the large. The medium was maybe just a tad on the small side for me, but in a good way. Like I could really manhandle that thing, and it was still plenty fast, and I wasn't sinking it. It was still just hard enough to squirt. Like it wasn't a gimme squirt, which I hate. Like I don't want an antics. I don't want a home slice. I want something that you have to kind of work.
Yeah,
that's flat.
That's how I felt.
Dude, I paddled the Steves finally.
Oh, really?
What'd you think?
Yeah, it was interesting. I took it down. I only paddled it once, and it was on the truss at pretty low water, which is not necessarily the proving grounds for that boat.
Were you in no pod, right?
No pod. It's big. Like the bow feels almost as big as the OG, and it's very hard to pivot. But I don't know. I guess to me, what I'm looking for in one of those slicey boats is something that's going to make like class 3-4 fun.
Exactly.
And the Steves to me felt like a boat for somebody who's like determined to run class 5 with a low volume stern.
Right.
Which is not exactly what I'm looking for. It's just like it's hard to pivot. Like it's a big boat, but I think the hull is good. Like I think it would surf really well. It kind of like launches itself off waves very nicely.
I mean, you have
like,
to, I mean, there's
it does some cool things, but like it needs whitewater, and like for me, like what I want that boat for is when there's not really good whitewater.
You just have to have two boats. That's just all there is to it. You can't get away with one. You have to have a ripper and you have to have a creek boat.
Oh yeah, that's not even.
That's just it.
That's not even. I'm not even debating that. It's just
the
like
Steves would have to be a third boat, which doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I disagree with the whole concept.
Well, I think we all.
It's not anyway.
Yeah, I think originally when we started talking about this and the pod thing, we all kind of said, this may not be the mix, this may not be possible to do correctly. So that makes perfect sense. That's what I see when I look at it.
But it's cool. Like if I were gonna like spend a month at the Fuda, that boat would be on my short list.
Interesting.
Yeah, your third boat.
It would be like my 13th boat, but
right. I mean, but metaphorically speaking, it's.
Lewis, do you have a wild water boat?
It's not part of your core.
I don't have a wild water boat.
I got a new Corbin 14 long carbon SUP board too.
Oh boy.
All right, let's see if we can get our guys on here.
My father-in-law has an Outburst. I should paddle that thing. That's what I think of it. Hey, how's it going?
Is this Tom?
Yo.
Good. This is. How are you doing?
What's up, boys?
Good. So, Tom, how do I say your last name?
Semenk.
Semenk. You were right, Lewis. All right, so we got Tom Semenk here on the show and Scott Laney. Am I saying that right, Scott?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay, well, I kind of gave a little brief background here as far as the boat and whatnot, but Scott, why don't you lead us off here and kind of fill our listeners in to what our plan is here?
Yeah, for sure. So I became familiar with the Dagger Outburst, like many, after hearing about the strategic reserve on previous episodes. So when I found one for sale locally in Boise, I spoke with Tom, who's the owner of this boat, about the idea of raising money for both our whitewater park and Outdoor Alliance, while also being able to help out the Hammer Factor community and hopefully getting one of these timeless beauties into the hands of a new owner.
Yeah, boy.
Okay, so you called up Tom and we're like, "Yo, Tom, this is what's up." And then what happened after that?
So I told Tom about the idea, and he really liked it. He was not surprised to hear how sought after and what a gem this boat is. He had not heard of the strategic reserve previously, but as he will probably say in a few moments here, he's quite a fan of the boat. But yeah, when I told him about the idea and about being able to help out two great causes, he was just thrilled about it. He was on board immediately, so that was super cool.
So Tom, a lot of people don't know about this boat, what the Outburst is. Can you just give us like I don't know, a walkthrough, a features and benefits rundown of what this beauty's all about?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's too many benefits to list, really, but the speed that it brings to you is kind of unmatched, and the style is off the charts. But where the boat really excels is that you can have tons and tons of fun with it on runs that you do day after day with your other boats. The Outburst can bring a whole new flavor to it and make it like paddling a new run, make moves you've done before more fun or faster. It's really a great boat. I think you guys have gone through a pretty extensive review of all the benefits. I don't think I could top that.
So tell me about, like, if you were to take this boat out on the Golly, would it shine out there?
I personally haven't ever paddled the Golly, but I think that this boat would shine pretty much anywhere.
Okay. And why are you getting rid of it?
Well, after this has all come up, I definitely have a little bit of remorse over the idea. It's made me think long and hard about it, but I'm getting rid of it mainly because I have a pretty big boat pile at this point, and some persistent shoulder problems have kept me off the water, or continue to keep me off the water more than I would like. And I would really like this boat to get out on the water, be in its happy place, and go to someone who's going to use it.
I like it. What color is it?
It is a black and purple model.
Oh, saw blade?
No saw blade.
Oh, it doesn't have a saw blade. Okay.
Well, I think we're done here.
I've heard, yeah. So somebody mentioned to me that there's supposedly a difference between the two, and I have paddled a saw blade version that's owned by a friend of mine, and I couldn't tell a significant difference. What's your guys' thought on that?
I've never got in them side by side. That could be a conspiracy theory. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, well, I can at least be one voice towards that cause, because I think it performs just as well. And it looks really good.
You know what that boat would be really good for somebody out there in the Intermountain West within striking distance of Boise is winning that Big Fork Whitewater Festival, where there's a slalom race and a pretty long downriver race, and you have to race the same boat for both, and your times are combined.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be the boat that would be the ultimate weapon for giving old Jared Sarasolsis a run for his money out there.
Interesting. Okay, so there's the purpose. All right, so now let's talk about. All right, so we're gonna auction this thing off. Scott, can you give me some details here on that?
Yeah, sure. So we have an account on eBay. Tom and I created the Strategic Reserve. I think it's Outburst Strategic Reserve. And we're going to post the kayak for sale, and we will email a link to you gentlemen so that people can find it. And then, like we mentioned earlier, what we're going to do is we're just going to split 50-50. The money that gets generated, half of it will go to our local whitewater park, the Boise Whitewater Park, and the other half we're going to donate to Outdoor Alliance.
Thanks a lot, boys.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely. You're welcome. I think Tom and I both, along with other listeners, have really enjoyed the segments regarding the conservation work you're doing over there in Washington, and it's made an impact on us. So we're excited to be able to contribute in some way.
Thanks, man.
I knew this was going to turn into a Lewis Fluffer segment.
God damn it.
All right, sick. So we're going to eBay this thing off. What is our starting bid?
Tom, what do you think, brother?
I think we should start it. When I posted it for sale, I posted it for what I now understand is probably way too little, but for $250. I think that's an easily attainable bid. What do you guys think?
I'm fine with that. I mean, that's worth.
Grace seems to think these are worth $1,500.
Yeah, exactly. $1,800 is what I was thinking.
Has anybody seen a used Outburst sold or purchased recently, and what do they go for?
I've seen several go for north of $500.
Okay, and that's not even including the philanthropic effort that's associated with this one.
correct.
I think we can
'Cause
get
you're not-
$2,000 for this boat. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Because it's not just the boat, it's the warm, fuzzy feeling you're going to get with the destination these funds are going to, and the experience you get of coming to Boise to pick it up and paddle on the payettes, which this boat knows all the lines already, so you're going to have a great time guaranteed.
And it has the pedigree of being sold in the Hammer Factor.
That's right.
That's quite a story.
All right. Well, there you go. I mean,
I'm saying $800. I bet that thing will go for $800. That's my prediction.
Well, we'll see. But this is the first time we've done this here on the Hammer Factor. Super cool. You guys reached out, and I mean, Boise Whitewater Park, super fun.
What kind of condition is this in? Mint, good, fair, poor?
This boat is in good condition.
Condition.
I mean, I've paddled it. I continue to paddle it, but it doesn't have anything resembling a crack. It has original outfitting. The outfitting. Whoever is going to buy this will want to outfit it for themselves because it's got a nice old back band. I've kind of just got a block of foam stuck in it behind the seat that served as my back band, but it's got many years left of paddling in it, especially if it ends up with somebody here in the Northwest or the Intermountain where you're not going to be hitting tons of rocks with it.
I'm going to take umbrage to that, but we'll just let that slide for the moment.
You don't know how timely that was. That comment for the show. We had a big discussion earlier.
Oh, good. All right. But yeah, it's in good condition. I'll make sure it's nice and cleaned and buffed, and all the leaves and spiders are vacuumed out of it. It was just on the water last weekend, paddled by the great Sam Wells, who wanted to buy it on the spot and keep it away from the Hammer Fractor crowd. But I told him it was spoken for in theory, but whoever ends up bidding on it, you may have some contenders.
Very cool.
Sweet.
Are you gonna send me over some pictures of this bad boy?
Yes, absolutely. We'll have pictures for you, and we'll have pictures at the auction as well, or on the eBay posting, obviously.
All right. Sicko.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this goes, and this may turn into like a ritual here on the Hammer Factor. We take some older school boat, some like gem that maybe got lost in time, and see if we can auction it off for a good cause here. So.
Yeah, I like it. Well, thank you, Scott, for the idea. I'm really psyched about this.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm glad you were on board with it as well.
All right, boys.
Yeah, what a great idea.
Yeah, thanks a ton, guys. Stoked.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, and we're psyched to see where this goes and support a good cause.
Awesome, fellas. Thank you so much, and I'll get in touch with you as soon as we get done recording here later today.
Sounds good. Take care, guys.
Good.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right, bye-bye.
This is like NPR Pledge Week. If you enjoy the quality programming brought to you by the Hammer Factor, if you find yourself sitting in the driveway listening, know
John
that it's
Grace.
brought to you.
John Grace, I got to bring something up with you before we move on too fast here.
Come on, isn't that cool, though? Those guys just fully out of the blue reached out to us, auctioning off a boat. Cool. I mean, this is super cool, man.
I think $800. That's my prediction. You guys got an over/under on this one?
I'm doubling up. I'm saying $1,600.
You guys are optimistic.
Lewis is like $275.
I think there's a charitable person out there that would throw another put a $200 premium on that boat. It's probably worth $5 or $6, right? Maybe $5.
Yeah. Well, I just think that's what I think. I think somebody who has some cash is gonna be like, you know what? This is a good way to spend it. So get out there, Hammer Factor Nation. Come on.
All right. Can we get back to what I was going to ask you about?
Okay, what do you got?
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
This has been something that's been floating around in the back end of the show, behind the scenes of the show, for probably a year now, and it's a time that we at least open this discussion up a bit. And you know what I'm getting to, don't you?
Is this the Dreamline thing?
It's the Dreamline thing.
Well, I don't know all the details on the Dreamline thing.
There are some people who are listening to the show who are like, what's the Dreamline thing? And there's other people right now who are literally pounding the steering wheels with their fists, screaming. They're so angry about this.
Yeah, we have got several emails asking if you haven't. The Dreamline thing was a video series that starred Benny Marr, Pat Keller, Dave Jackson, Eric Jackson. Was produced by Steve Fisher. It was meant to be an advanced instructional.
So these were
You're talking about
instructional.
it like it exists.
So these were instructional videos. The idea was to have a group of instructional videos.
And it was a Kickstarter campaign, and along with the video, there were other things that you could opt into, like private instruction, trips to the Zambezi. There was instruction at the Charlotte Whitewater Park and on the Ottawa and things like that. Yeah.
So this was a Kickstarter project, right?
Yep.
And Steve Fisher, South African paddler. If you've been around for a while, you certainly recognize the name. He got on Kickstarter and he was like, I'm going to make these instructional videos and offer these things, these clinics and whatnot. And I don't really understand how did it work? Like people, if you paid money to Kickstarter, would you get the video series in exchange and instruction, or was it all inclusive package, or how did the product work?
Have you ever seen a campaign on Kickstarter? Have you ever?
Yeah, but usually
one?
you're buying a physical object. You're buying like a Bluetooth, washing machine or something. You know what I mean? It's something you can actually hold.
Yeah.
Right?
So the way this one was set up, and I don't have all the details with me, but you could buy like the DVD for $20. You could buy one-on-one instruction for X number of dollars. You could buy like for $300 the DVD and a life jacket or something, and then you could go all the way up to say $3,000. You could get a trip to Africa on the Zambezi. EJ and Fisher would be your coaches.
I don't understand why you
that
need a
kind of thing.
Kickstarter for kayak instruction. Normally kayak instruction is pretty simple. You pay the money and someone teaches you. You don't really need to kickstart that, right? I'm confused by the whole concept, I have to be honest.
Well, we got to bring somebody on the show who's a little more in depth. I've reached out to Steve. I didn't get any kind of response back. I don't think.
Let's get to the controversy. So the controversy is that this Kickstarter thing went through. He collected how much money did the Kickstarter raise?
I don't remember.
Give me a ballpark.
$80,000.
A lot of money.
Quite a bit of money, yeah.
And was anything delivered?
Yeah, I know that all of the private instruction, all the trips, all of that were done. All the stuff on the Zambezi. I think, as far as I know, just the DVD is the one thing that wasn't delivered.
Right. But we do get emails from people who were very upset over this whole thing.
No, I definitely know it's a big deal. We need to get if we can't get Steve on the show, we need to get EJ or Dane or Benny or one of the other people who were starring in this. Maybe they have some insider knowledge. But pretty much what I know, I just shared, so I don't know. I think you should reach out to Steve and see what you can line up.
Listen, I don't think, based on my past experience with Steve Fisher, he's not going to answer any questions I have.
Well, I asked
not
him.
that I've ever been in a fight with a guy, but he's always looked at me like, "Who are you? And
who are you?
Why are you in between me and someone much cooler to talk to?"
Oh God. Well, I mean, I reached out to Steve. He never got back to me. Said.
So would you put this ahead or behind the Corn Addison SUP Kickstarter in the vaguely kayaking related Kickstarter Hall of Fame?
What was that one?
God, I hate spreading rumors when I don't have the story entirely straight. But didn't he collect a bunch of money on a Kickstarter, sold the company before it even existed, and then never delivered on any of the Kickstarter stuff?
Oh, that was like the Imagine Sup or something like that.
Something like that.
I think I do remember that.
When he was on the Hammer Factor, he discussed Imagine, but there was no talk of this aspect of it, obviously.
That may have been before I was big into Sup.
Do you think South Africans don't understand Kickstarter?
Do you think there are any circumstances? Do you think there are any circumstances under which you should give a kayaker money on Kickstarter?
Well, I think I would love to hear from somebody who wants to come on the show who has some. I don't want to hear gossip. I want to hear, someone who has an objective view on what went down here and could describe it, because I know those people out in the boating community want some answers. They feel definitely like they were ripped off.
Well, I tried to get the interview. I couldn't get it, so I recommend you try.
I think Geltman probably has the street cred. He's North Fork champion.
It's true. It's true.
Speaking
is
of
there a
rumors,
story to tell? The story is he took the money, never made the videos. Don't give money to kayakers on Kickstarter.
You think that's it?
I think that's it.
God, we got to make sure somebody gets this Outburst if they.
Right.
eBay's totally different. Just so we're
it is.
clear on this.
Yeah, right. So can we talk about another rumors, since we're talking about rumors right now?
Let's talk about Confluence.
Thank you. That's what I'm getting at. Lots of rumors about Confluence. Confluence being not Confluence, Pennsylvania, where Immersion Research is based, but Confluence, the boat conglomerate that's behind, many recognized brands: Dagger,
Wave Sport,
X-Wave Sport,
Perception,
right?
Wilderness Systems.
Yeah.
Bomber Gear still exists? Is that Confluence?
Yeah, no, Bomber Gear.
AT?
They imploded. AT is still around. Yeah, that's definitely a Confluence brand, or it was.
So anyway, what have you heard?
So I had a couple people going on Deep Background about a year ago. Somebody who obviously I'm not going to name, who was with Inside Confluence, gave me a call and was like, some serious stuff is going down. Because I can't get into details. And then
you just get that call, and you're like, "That's
I
it."
Kind of do, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Go on.
And he was like, it was sort of the kind of, we got to get together, because we get together. This person wasn't going to be there forever, and when they get together, you want to discuss it. So then, 6 months ago, John Grace and I.
Would that be considered a leak?
That was a
like
leak,
a leaker?
for sure.
Okay.
For sure, yeah. And then you and I heard some financial stuff from another person that we know, another person on Deep Background. That was not, if it was true, was not good. There was definitely some financial distress going on there. And then I heard a couple weeks ago that a big portion of their sales force has been laid off. And then we also, Snowy, our long-term friend of the show, is now not fully time employed there. Is that correct?
To my understanding, he's on a freelance basis. But that's my understanding. Dude, if Snowy's available, somebody should pick him up. That guy can make a kayak.
Right. Well, so the questions remain: is, what's going to happen with whitewater boats, right? Because if Confluence, let's just suppose this stuff is true, and we don't know that it's true. I mean, the sources were good, but we don't know. Like, Confluence isn't announcing anything. There's no press release. But if Confluence does indeed implode, the first thing on the chopping block is going to be Dagger, right? That's got to be, in terms of certainly any kind of resale or salvage operation, Whitewater's not going to be part of it, I wouldn't think. So it's going to have an impact on the whitewater business, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, who's going to be the big benefactors are going to be Piranha and Liquid Logic and Jackson, of course.
And anybody who's picked up and squirreled away at a Dagger Outburst.
Oh my God, the price of the Outburst is going to go through the roof.
Well, they don't have the tool anymore, Snowy's do believe.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Still the RPM. The RPM is going to be the one, because they can no longer do these limited edition RPM runs anymore.
You watch, the Outburst is going to be more valuable than the RPM.
Yeah. And then the question remains: is what is the future of whitewater boats? I mean, it's not an easy business, right?
Time will tell. I agree. I mean, we need more variety in this sport. I'd love to see people jumping into it rather than getting out. But
how do you run a successful whitewater boat business? That's the question. Who should hire Snowy is Waka. Snowy's probably running out of the whitewater boat business as fast as his two legs.
Snowy's going to be designing for Mercedes or BMW or something. I mean,
yeah,
the guy's he's really good at what he does. I don't know. That's super interesting gossip. It's man. I mean, it's hard to be a global player in paddle sports based in the U.S. right now. I mean, I know for a fact certain manufacturers, to escape tariffs of shipping boats to Europe and whatnot, are having to they make them in the factory, and then the ones that they have to ship overseas, they have to disassemble them to get around the tariffs, and then have someone over there reassemble them.
As if the kayak business isn't hard enough. Right?
I mean, I know for a fact this is going on right now, probably with more players than one. So, I don't know. That's going to be super interesting.
Along the same line, Sweet, I don't want to crow here, but Sweet announced they've stopped making dryware. They stopped making dry suits and dry tops. So I think they still have inventory left, but it's official. I saw the press release from Sweet. Why you'd press release that, I don't know, but I saw it.
Huh. I've known about that one for a while. I don't feel like that's news for some reason.
I have too, but it was on the rumor mill. I mean, anybody who knew the business was wondering when Sweet would start realizing it was making no sense doing what they're doing, but they finally made it official. So it's a tough business, man.
That's why I just want to start talking about Green Race in all of its glory.
Right? Before the show today, we were talking about the Outdoor Industry Association and the state of the industry, and it's a disaster in my opinion. And in my mind, I see a clear path to fixing this. Involves some tough love, but no one's asking me.
So tell me about your tough love. What's it going to be?
Well, we could spend a whole show talking about this, but I'll say I think the primary unit of the outdoor industry is comprised of the manufacturers and the retailers, and that is just being annihilated left and right by carelessness and sort of a sense of like hopelessness and a money grab. But the best thing for the consumer is to have manufacturers selling their goods to retailers. That's the best consumer experience for outdoor gear, period. It provides the best jobs. It provides the best service to the customer. It avoids the entire mess of Amazon and buying stuff on Amazon. Manufacturers early on were really, delighted with the idea of selling direct, but I think all of us who've gotten into it realize it's not what we really want to be doing anyway. We'd much rather have the retailers handle the consumer side of the business. And we just need to head back that direction, in my opinion. I think customers need to understand that the convenience of Amazon and the supposed the perceived consumer-friendly aspect of Amazon is not that. You're really, by buying your things like outdoor gear on Amazon and things like that, you're actually getting the worst possible customer experience, in my opinion.
In the long run, yeah, but man, God, the short term, like our heater element just went out yesterday, got on the old Amazon, typed it up, be here tomorrow morning. I hear you though. I mean, I without a doubt, the experience of going to a well-stocked paddle sports retailer with all kinds of brands and all kinds of cool stuff to hold and try and
not just paddle sports, outdoors stores. Like there's a couple outdoor stores here in Hood River that do great, and it's a great experience. You go in there, it's a great staff, they have a great selection of products, super helpful, they know what they're selling. I bought my backcountry skis from a store here in town. It was awesome. Anyway, I don't want to go too far down that road.
I think we're pretty far down that road. So we have a special guest we'd like to get on the show here today, and I'm trying to figure out a way to get a hold of this gentleman. But this is a stand-up comedian, former LDM contributor, and Banks Magazine editor, James McLeod. He has sent an interesting email over. Known James for a long time. He wanted to jump on the show for a minute, so I said, yeah, let's do it. He's got a new technique he wants to go over, which I found interesting. Way to get out of holes, and he has a little bit of paddle talk. We may have to cut him off on that. But I have that on the docket here. I'm waiting for him to get back to me with the exact way to pull him onto the show, so stay tuned for that. Lewis, do you have any info or anything you'd like to share on the North Fork race that recently went on?
Oh man, God, that feels like forever ago. It was cool, man. It was bigger than ever. a ton of people from Europe and South America, just all over. Definitely felt like the biggest one yet. It was sick having the women's class. The water was high. It was gnarly. Um, they adopted that format from Sick Line this year, which I'm like not super over the moon about. But the format is there's a qualifier at Norfolk race. They had it on S-turn, which is substantially chiller than Jake's. It's like just like a little over a minute sprint or maybe a 2-minute sprint, and so then they cut the field to 40. And then the next round is first versus 40th, second versus 39th, etc. But not actually head to head, just like time versus time. And I just like there's something about that format that it's like if you could have the second fastest time of the day and not make it into the final, which is like a little weird. But it seemed like for the most part the times like it didn't seem like there were any heats where anybody who like really didn't deserve to make it into the final did or nobody who had a really screaming time who got the door shut on them within reason. But still, like, I'm not in love with that format. But anyway, I don't know, the final was sick, the water was high. Yeah, it was big, rowdy, good. North Fork.
Dane wins.
Dane wins. Dane is just on another level. I mean, Dane, like, I mean, we closed the bar down with Dane the night before the final, and he won. He was out as late as anybody on Thursday night, the night before the semifinal, and won it handily. Like, he's just a Disney animal. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about Dane. I mean, just I think both of his runs in the final would have won. I mean, just like the level, like it's like you watch that dude at Jake's, like especially in practice, and it's like there's just like no situation you can put that dude in that's gonna like raise his heart rate above like 45. It's like there's just nothing that can happen to him out there that he can't like readily deal with, and it's like just watching that is pretty impressive, I think.
Yeah, then he leaves, heads overseas, and wins the big rodeo.
Yeah.
The big freestyle champ. I mean, and this may be the year he breaks 4 minutes. I mean, the guy is just on fire. I've just been watching, like, I mean, he's showing up at the comps, doing what he can do, and he's just back out on the expedition, back out on the tour. I mean,
this, if you guys remember, this is the year Kenny said Dane would break 4 minutes after his very lengthy statistical analysis.
Yeah, I think it was more stated as statistical fact than this could be the year.
And this was also the same show where we segued right from Kenny to Shark vs. Bear, which was probably the greatest segue in Hammer Factor history.
Oh, that's so true.
Well, do you want to do 5 questions in 30 seconds with Lewis?
Yeah, I just can't believe I can't find James's Skype handle.
All right, let's do 5 questions, 30 seconds. This time I'm going to read the questions, Lewis Geltman answering.
Okay, let's do it. I get
the clock ready. Does someone have a
hang on,
clock?
hang on.
Haven't looked at him yet, so I'm really going in cold here.
Good.
Hang on. That's what we want. Okay, hold on.
So these questions were actually directed towards you, or mentioned your name in part of the question. So this was a good collection for you to answer.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to give a countdown. 3, 2, 1, go.
Mason wants to know why such an accomplished paddler like Lewis has never taken a swiftwater rescue class.
Because I'm an idiot.
Shane Robinson wants to know if he only has $100 to donate, is it better to have an AW membership, a membership to the Access Fund, a membership to Winter Woodlands, and donate the remainder to OA, or just give all 100 to OA?
It's Winter Wildlands, and I think you should join the member groups as much as it pains me to say it.
Okay.
Thanks, Shane.
Kurt Sable wants to know how to deal with bulk versus ropes in terms of, do you carry a big throw bag and one small one in the body, or a small throw bag and webbing on the body, or what's the best combination of throw ropes versus bulk?
I don't know how you want to combination it, but you have to have a throw bag that's at least like 65 feet. Don't use one of those short throw bags and think that you're covered.
Okay. Anonymous wants to know how to maintain running his stout capabilities on local class 3-4 playboat run. I guess he's in law school, and I think he was thinking about you.
Whew. I don't know, man. Just stay stoked. Go as much as you can.
And Matt M wants to know if 30 is too old to start boating the shit.
No.
He sounds like he's just getting into paddling.
I mean, you're not going to be Dane, but you can definitely go out there and be running the Golly in a couple of years and having a good time, and
All right, that's
30's
it.
not that old.
That's pretty good. I think I kind of agree with all that.
I think the class 3-4, how to stay tuned in class 3-4. What's the answer, John Grace?
Just go all the time and flip over.
Attaining.
I read his email about how to deal with the time stuff when you're in school, and it reminded me that when I was in law school, that was when I really became a dick about people being on time. I was like, it's just like, I have 2 hours right now, do not be 15 minutes late. Like, I will be angry. Like, be on time.
Yeah,
Why haven't you taken a swiftwater rescue? Do you think your experience leads you to believe that you know more, you know everything you know about rescue?
No, I don't think that's true. I mean, I think that really complicated rope work is usually a much slower process than what you need for a real emergency situation. And I don't know, maybe I've just never seen the necessity of it play out in practice, but I think practicing that stuff is good. I mean, I think that, if you spend enough time paddling, you deal with enough rescue situations, I think you learn to have a good, quick decision-making process. And I think, you can learn from experience, but I think it's not to say that there's not things that I couldn't and wouldn't and shouldn't learn through doing that. And I would certainly do it given the opportunity.
I keep coming back to that avalanche class I took over the winter, where you're in an avalanche and the snow stops and you can go in there and step on the snow and it's not moving anymore and start digging a person out, versus the fluid situation of someone stuck on a rapid and the amount of variables that are thrown into that situation. Listen, don't start writing the hate emails. I'm not poo-pooing rescue training, but I'm saying that rescue training for whitewater is considerably more difficult, in my opinion, from just a variable standpoint than snow.
Yeah, and like you see, I mean, I think I would take the safety over. I would vouch for the safety of somebody with a lot of experience on whitewater over somebody with less experience who, has all the training in the world, right? I mean, it's like you learn a lot from experience, and I guess, and that's not to say that I couldn't learn more and shouldn't take that opportunity, but I don't think that it's as big of a gap in my expertise as you might think.
There's a lot of things outside of just rope work, the stabilization techniques, dealing with hypothermia.
I would be more inclined to take like a wilderness first responder course. Feels more pressing to me than a swiftwater rescue course, I guess I would say.
No. You were at 1 minute 36 seconds.
5 questions in 30 seconds is tough, man.
Yeah.
Well, these were long questions. I was 30 seconds just reading those things alone.
No, I thought that was pretty good. We got a few more listener mails we need to get into here.
Have you guys taken swiftwater rescue classes?
I took one a long time ago. I'll tell you what I've never done is I want to do a woofer.
Yeah, that's what I want to do too.
I've never done a wolf, like a proper woofer.
That feels like a much bigger gap in my knowledge than the swiftwater rescue stuff, honestly.
Yep.
Well, have you taken a swiftwater rescue class?
No. I mean, it's tough. I taught kayaking for a bunch of years, right? And I mean, nothing life-threatening, but I dealt with 1,000 different rescues. People in various states of panic, and sometimes you're rescuing people while they're reasonably safe. They convinced they're dying, and so you get all the the emotions that go along with that. But also, you paddle hard whitewater for long enough, you just get involved in a dozen or 24 really, really scary, terrifying experiences.
Yeah.
And I think the conclusion that you start to draw after a while is you're like, you have grab that bitch, right? Which is, if you're willing to risk, given the circumstance, you're willing to risk your life to grab that person. There are so many situations that I could think of where I don't know how much rescue class training you could take, and still there's not a lot you can do.
Yeah, I agree.
If someone's stuck in a pothole somewhere and you can't get to them, you're gonna jump in with a throw rope tied to your waist, and try and fish them out, or
Yeah, I guess I would say the one thing I feel like I do sort of get my rope work practice on is log removals. I feel like that can be a really good way to just kind of brush up on those Z-drag skills and things like that. You get a lot of practice kind of thinking through that stuff.
I know we're hitting a lightning rod here, and I'm saying this so that someone can write in and correct me, explain to me all the reasons why I'm wrong about this.
I would say that it could get you a little more up to speed on things that you've learned through experience. While it can never replace experience, if you're early on into the sport, it's going to give you a bump up in your knowledge level.
You have James on the line here?
I can't get James.
I was going to ask him what he thinks.
I can't get him.
What do you think? What do you think, John Grace? Of all the rescue situations you've been in,
I don't know. This brings me to the toe tether discussion. do you guys paddle with toe tethers?
No.
That's taught as a positive thing in a lot of swiftwater rescue courses, and to me, it's just a cumbersome thing that gets in the way. Now, if you're
if I'm rescuing somebody a cucumber in class, if I'm rescuing John Grace cucumber swimming, a toe tether is great.
I didn't swim in cucumber. It was dimple.
Dimple. If someone's swimming above chaos, right?
Yeah.
And I do not want them dragging me over chaos backwards with a rope tied to them. You know what I mean?
The best. I don't
want that.
The best justification. So I never used a toe tether, and I never owned one. And the thing that got me to finally buy one was someone pointing out that you might need it for an unconscious swimmer. And that's the only time when it's, to me, worth it that you would, I'm not clipping myself to somebody's boat. Your boat's gone. Sorry, dude. But if you're on the wind at high water or something like that, and somebody's basically flush drowned, yeah,
Right.
To me, that's the situation.
Right. Well, John Grace, what's the hairiest rescue situation you've been involved with?
Oh God, dude. I've been in all
Give me
kinds
one.
of hairy.
Give me one that stands out.
Well, I'll give you one that stands out as far as using rope work. As we were on Upper Cherry and the rapid Kiwi in a pocket. Mm-hmm. You familiar with that one, Lewis?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 30-footer. It's got a nasty pocket on the river right side. And it was not the first descent, although on the first descent, Nikki got kind of tool bagged in there, and we had to do kind of a tricky rescue. But Tommy, on a high water year, and it was about twice the flow, charged off into that thing, did every single thing he could to get out of that pocket, could not get out. We had to do a vertical extraction out of there, and it went super smooth, and we got him out of there, but it was good that we had all of the prussics and everything that we needed to set up that rescue.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the way we did it probably would not have been taught in a rescue class per se. But oh man, there's been so many periods where you need a lot of hands on a rope, and you got to get a lot of hands on a rope and try and get hands on a person. I mean, every hairy rescue I've ever been on, the way it's came out has been with that scenario. It's very seldomly just one guy throws a rope and gets the rescue done, if that makes any sense. But I mean, we had to set up an anchor, so we set up an anchor real quick, put a prusik on the rope, threw it down there. Once we got Tommy connected, he was in his boat. Still,
was he relatively stable in his pocket?
No, not at all. We had to have a big open face carabiner so he could get it on there, and popped it on there, and then we pulled him up, and then it was kind of like a sketchy lip. We had to get him out. So once we got him 10 feet off the water and we had to bring him up, I mean, how far do you think that is on the river right bank there, Lewis? 60 feet, 80 feet? A 35-foot throwback definitely wouldn't have worked. And
you vertically extracted him in his boat.
In his boat until we got to a certain height. We pulled him 3 feet off the ground, and then he exited the boat, so it was just him. And then, because there was no way for him to get stable, he couldn't let go of his paddle to grab a rope. So it was
Holy
super.
Shit.
I mean, he was getting chundered in there. It was moving fast. And so, I mean, there was no escape. I mean, it was narrowly averting disaster. So then we got him up a certain amount, and we put the prusik on there. So if we dropped it, because it was just guys holding the rope, and we didn't have time to set up some, extensive Z-drag, so we just put an anchor on there and a prusik. So once we got him up, even if we did let go of the rope, it wouldn't drop him all the way back in the water. And then we just kind of manhandled, drug him out of there, ripped up his ankles, and all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, that was probably
that's stout, dude. That is some serious rope work.
Yeah.
What did you anchor off of? Is there a tree up there?
We tied around just basically a big stone. We just took webbing from our waist straps and connected two of those together, put the prusik connected to that, and then just cranked him up, and then we'd get him up to a certain bit, and we'd move the prusik down the rope, and then we got him to the last pitch and drug him up over the edge.
That is stout, man. That makes me think I need to go take a swiftwater rescue class, man. I don't think I could pull that one off.
But that was the only time, because most of the time, if you're in a rope work with prusiks and that kind of situation, it's like you talk about. It's more of a recovery than a rescue.
Yeah, you're unpinning a canoe or something.
Yeah, so
a raft.
But I think it's good to know. It's good to practice, and I think, like you're talking about, just dragging wood out of the river and things like that. That's that kind of scenario stuff. I think the classes that are I've always wanted to put together a class where I take. Do you guys you guys never wrestled, but in wrestling we had these dummies that we would throw around, and they weighed there was a 110-pound one and a 160-pound one or something. And I've always wanted to get these dummies and just throw them in the water with a life jacket on and get a crew of people and be all right, try and rescue it. Why are you laughing at me?
I'm just thinking of 4 or 5 different obnoxious jokes I could make using this premise, but just let it slide for the moment.
I think the scenario classes are really good. Just as good as a true swiftwater rescue class. I
mean, it sounds like it sounds like there's a lot of climbing work there.
Yeah.
Rope climbing experience,
Yeah, that was one of our quicker and more complicated rescue scenarios that I can recount.
That's a good one.
Most of the other ones are clip yourself on the rope and go in there and get them. Wow, man. Whew. I'm getting cold chills thinking about all these.
That story just gave me anxiety.
Rescue scenarios. The water was too
sweating.
It was too high to be running that rapid. I don't know what he was thinking. Do we want to get into a few more listener mails? I just got a message here from James, so we'll bring James on at the end of the show to do some rants and raves and talk about his new technique. The new technique is called the emancipator stroke. I'm not sure how to go with this. All right, so Carl McCollum writes in. He asked if the Wave Sport Phoenix and Dagger Phantom are the same.
Dude,
Right.
they're not. I saw the Wavesport Phoenix in action at the North Fork race, piloted by Mikel Ramaza, and it is the weirdest non-Cord and Addison designed kayak I've ever seen. It is like that. Like the bow is really long and the stern is really short, but then the stern is really wide so that you have enough surface area in the stern so that the bow doesn't like come up when you're sprinting. And the chines are like super, super hard. And like when you look at this thing, you're just like,
you're gonna get your ass kicked.
it just looks terrible. But like, I mean, Mikel makes it look good, and he, has some theory behind it, and he said he likes it, and he's certainly a boss paddler. I mean, I guess I commend people who are trying something different. But it is a weird looking kayak. Didn't make me want to paddle it, but
Did you get the answer on this one, Weld?
I did. I wrote Snowy. I guess he was still full-time employed at Complex at the time. He said he verified what Lewis is saying. They are indeed not the same boats. So he also I also asked him about at the same time we were discussing boats coming shipped in plastic bags and how bad it was. We've at IR we're working on this problem as well, and it's not as easy as people think. But Snowy reaffirms that. He says they've explored using plastic alternatives to plastic, but like woven sleeves and things that can be reused by the customer. But long story short, these things don't always work out to actually be more environmentally friendly. So anyway, so no, they're not the same.
Yeah, they're not the same. I mean, you can kind of see from the pictures that I saw they weren't the same.
Yeah.
Mike Harvey writes us a sweet letter about paddleboarding your way to being a better kayaking. It looks like Mike and I have found Mike, Dane, and Gerd, and myself have figured out how to get better through paddleboarding, and it all looks obvious to me.
What's the next question?
Does it involve the high and dry?
You tell me about the high and dry. You're in the know about the high and dry. You and Blackburn.
I wrote my theory about the high and dry at the beginning of the show notes.
I'll post that one in the show notes. That's a good email there from Mike Harvey. You can tell us if you agree with that or not.
Mike Harvey is one of the co-owners of Badfish Subs in Buena Vista. Great guy. I also know that Luke. Yeah.
They make the best. Well, they make I don't want to say best. I don't want to call anybody out, but they make a sick paddleboarder. The River Shred. It's like one of the first like inflatable paddleboards with rocker.
Yeah. I also noticed that Luke Hopkins. I was looking at their webpage. Luke Hopkins is also an owner of Badfish. Did you know that?
I did know that. Luke lives here in town.
Luke. What doesn't Luke have a piece of in paddle sports? He's like the deep state of kayaking. That guy's everywhere.
Interesting.
Yeah, and there's not a single aspect of kayaking that he's not have his fingers in.
What else does he have his fingers in?
Every time I see him, he has some scheme cooking where he's marketing for somebody. It's like you, Grace. It's like a 20-minute explanation of what he's doing. None of it makes any sense.
It's like me. What is it?
There's somebody that's coming in.
What on earth, dude?
Like John Grace, what are you doing? I'm branding video content that's actually recursively sending the information back to the brands so that they can inform the retailers on what decisions. I'm like, check.
Dude, every time you ask me what I do, I provide consistent content that's valuable over time. Come on. It's the same thing. Every time. That's what I do. You got to figure that out.
All right, let's get to Haley in Alaska, who
called us
makes
out.
a very good. Yeah, she totally calls us out. She's 100% right, and Lewis would agree with us. She wants less bullshit. She wants more stuff on insane missions. And obviously, she's sick of paddle offset, which we all are.
Speaking of insane missions and who I want to get on the show and who I had fully lined up, but you guys just disappeared off into the universe when it was time to record a show, is Ben Stooksbury, dude. Ben
Yeah, I'm
has
ready.
been killing it for so long. He's been to all these obscure places. He's truly doing something different, in my opinion,
Yeah.
in the expedition world.
Right.
Yeah, let's have Six around for sure.
For sure.
So,
I want to say personally, I'm sorry, Haley, and we're going to try better. You're 100% right.
no, she's right. Dry gear. So, speaking of that, let's get into some gear. Dry gear.
God damn it.
Dry gear waterproofing. Weld, what you got?
Hold on.
We
I
talked
gotta,
about this.
Nah,
it's a. I don't know.
He's got
Did we?
some old gear. Who wrote this one? Bring this one up.
We need like a
Sure,
hammer
Nate.
factor intern to just go back and like time stamp what we talk about in all these videos, so we can just be like, go back to episode 37 at hour 1 and.
All right, listen. It's from Nate. He wants to know about waterproofing your gear, right? Here's the deal. The thing that makes your gear waterproof is waterproof breathable laminate, right? It's the thing that's inside the fabric you can't really see. You have the outer fabric, whatever the outer shell fabric may be. You have the waterproof breathable laminate, which keeps the water out. You have like a trico mesh on the inside that protects the laminate. It's a 3-layer fabric. As long as the laminate is intact, the garment is theoretically still dry. There are various reasons why crappy laminates may fall apart, but as long as the laminate's intact, the water's not going to come pouring through. What happens is that over time, there's a coating sprayed on the outside of garments called DWRs, durable water repellent finishes. And what that DWR does is it makes water bead off the surface of the jacket. That doesn't keep the jacket dry, the garment dry, or the dry suit dry. It just makes water bead off the surface of it, and it keeps that outer shell fabric from wetting out and absorbing water. What happens is when the DWR starts to wear off, the outer garment, the outer shell garment, whether it's nylon or whatever, polyester, starts to hold water, and then the breathability of the garment drops precipitously. And also because usually this cold water that's sitting there on the surface of the jacket, you get really bad condensation inside the jacket, making you think that your jacket or dry suit is leaking like a sieve. You can, in fact, reapply the DWR, these durable water repellent finishes, getting an aftermarket treatment. But keep in mind, this is not making your jacket waterproof. It's just making the water bead off, which will aid in the breathability and the overall feeling of dryness inside the garment. Note that about 5 or 6 years ago, the DWRs that we used to use a fluorocarbon that was very difficult it never biodegraded, basically. It would stay in the environment forever. So most of the developed world has stopped using this DWR coating. They're using a much weaker version of the same fluorocarbon, which basically wears off right away. So you're seeing more waterproof breathable jackets wetting out faster and faster every year. And there's been a gigantic push to find a replacement for this fluorocarbon-based DWR. It's a bane to all dry suit manufacturers because when DWR wears off, people are insistent that their dry suit is leaking. It's not just an our thing, it's across all brands, but it's just not the case. At least it's not the case with good dry suits where the laminate is still intact. And this is why I bring this up. Because on one hand, it is an issue where people will get a dry top or a dry suit and the DWR wears off, and while the jacket is still theoretically dry, it feels very damp on the inside, and there's really not a lot we can do about that. We're against the environment here. On the other hand, I see a lot of hand-wringing from people like Yvonne Chenard and a bunch of other people from Patagonia and other people in the industry who are trying to find a replacement of DWR with another chemical of some sort. And at some point, I would have to think, you know what, honestly, it's just not that big of a deal. With the DWR wears off your dry suit or your dry top, it's still going to function just fine in really crappy conditions where it needs to function. You may feel a little damp inside your dry suit, but if it's honestly freezing outside in your hypothermic situation, it's going to do the job. And maybe we should all stop worrying about being completely bone dry inside of these garments constantly and be like, hey, I'm in a paddle sports, I'm in the water, I'm going to get a little damp sometimes, and stop worrying about it. So there you go.
Dude, I want my stuff to be dry, man. I want it dry. Let me ask you this. You know how
just write off the environment
I just
at
wanted
this point anyway.
I wanted to read that email because this has been it's a thing going on in the industry. I want to discuss it. That's all.
No, I like that. I hear what you're saying too.
Yeah.
I have got some dry gear that has lasted a long time, and others that is like literally 10 uses, and I've got leaky arms. Do you think it's like some boats, I mean, it's the same mold for the boat, but if they don't cook it properly, the boat's going to break. Do you think there's some kind of like something from when they actually rolled the fabric off of the machine?
No, dry top. I mean, you can make a shitty dry top or shitty dry suit that falls apart. And what I'm saying is the laminate just falls apart, right? And those leak. Dry tops are hard to diagnose because you get water up through the tunnel of your jacket, and it's just they're really hard to tell. With a dry suit, if you think your dry suit's leaking, you could go stand in some water with your hands and your neck out of the water, and it should be bone dry. Wear cotton, like some jeans and a t-shirt underneath it, and you'll see water coming through it. It's a simple, easy diagnostic test anybody can do. But there's just so much subjective opinions about what's dry and what's not dry, and so many reasons why water may be getting inside that suit for legitimate reasons. It's hard to tell. But well-made laminates from a reputable company, rarely do you have water just seeping right through the fabric. So
there you have it.
Yeah.
Moving on, Travis Schule writes in. He says, I teach for Montana Kayak Academy in Flathead Valley, Montana. We offer free kayak lessons and equipment to all youth who are interested. After a couple of years of teaching ACA level 1, 2, 3, 4 classes, we decided to start offering slalom kayak classes. I have an enormous difficulty finding access to hang gates. Much of our training has been with buoys. This does work for some drills, but often makes classic upstreams difficult. How have some clubs been able to hang permanent gates in river stretches? From your childhood experience, what drills were the most beneficial, and what was the progression slalom programs take from beginner to more advanced? I would also like to beg Weld to start making kids dry tops. I join the crowd here, Travis. Kids dry tops or suits, just one step smaller than IR's smallest women's garment would fit most kids we teach. Thanks, I love the show. So let's start with hanging the gates. That comes down to like the local land managers, I think, like we were talking about. And Lewis, you're fixing that with your regulation, not red tape, correct?
I mean, yes, finding somewhere to hang slalom gates is a nightmare. We've talked about it here in the gorge forever. I mean, the place.
Not only that, I mean, just finding a place to hang gates, period, regardless of all other issues, is really hard. I mean, you need a really special place to hang gates.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you want to be able to. I mean, you got to be able to manage for the water level coming up and down. Ideally, you can drive there. It's not like in the middle of some river run. Like you got to be responsible for those things, not turning into debris in the river, which means somebody has to be showing up there all the time, like keeping an eye on them, fixing them if there's a gate hanging in the water or whatever. If there's fishermen around, chances are they're going to cut the wires down. You want a rapid that you can paddle back up to the top of. Ideally, you need it to be deep. Like there's just like a million factors that make it a pain in the ass to hang slalom gates, and I don't know what the easy answer is. I mean, the place that John and I grew up paddling slalom in DC has had gates continuously for 40 years. And
wait. No, for
the feeder canal.
No, for decades. You mean?
That's what I said. 40 years.
40. Yeah, I thought you said 4 years.
Yeah.
As in FOR years.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that place is, besides artificial courses, is 1 in a million. So hard to find that kind of environment.
I mean, maybe the move is just to have a really quick and dirty gate system where you're hanging them off twine instead of proper wires, and you go down there and just hang 5 at the beginning of the workout and pull them down at the end. If you have like a narrow enough place where that process isn't too much of a nightmare.
Process is a nightmare.
It's tough. I mean, I feel like it's one of the biggest obstacles to growing the sport, honestly.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
The shame is how good. I mean, he's on the right track. I mean, there's no better way to learn kayaking than slalom, in my opinion. Whitewater kayaking. I mean, besides paddling whitewater, But what a great way to learn kayaking.
Yeah.
What about what drills are the most beneficial?
Gosh, I don't
Talk
know,
about
man.
the progression early on. Like what, I think he's asking, if I'm going to spend my time with these kids, what's the best thing to teach them?
I mean, I'm sure Weld has thoughts on this, but I mean, I think for me, just starting and working through the basics of technique, like in a nice slow progression from like working on your forward stroke to working on sweeps towards building good technique around draws, good posture in the boat, just like good technique on all the basic strokes, which you can definitely do on flat water, no gates needed.
I mean, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and then moving into like the, very basics of offset gates and upstreams. Something I always like is, like talking through with kids, like what strokes they're going to take to run, like a nice, easy-ish, short course. Like you should be able to, describe all the strokes that you're going to take, trim down what strokes you're taking to like the minimum, no taking bullshit strokes. Like you can be like, how few strokes can you take to run this course or whatever, so that you're, making sure that you're being super efficient, everything you're doing has a purpose, and that you're thinking that through and sort of visualizing. I mean, I think that's helpful.
I mean, the most basic aspect of slalom is something that's so important in river running too, and that's understanding your trajectory of your kayak as it goes in and out of eddies. As your boat goes into an eddy and the nose slows down and the stern's out in the current, it describes an arc. And the same thing happens as your boat leaves the eddy and goes back out into the current. It describes an arc. And how the angle at which you approach the eddy line and you make that transition, changes how the arc, whether it's a tight arc or a wide arc. And slalom, makes you think about that and understand that in a way that you've never really thought about it before. So that at this basic level, you can cross the eddy line, either going in or out of the eddy, and be able to describe the exact arc you want to with very minimal paddle work, but then also know how to alter that arc and to really charge into something by doing either a stern draw to widen the arc or a bow draw, or what we call a defect stroke to tighten the arc. But that examination of that phenomena in slalom gates is an awesome exercise that translates so well into whitewater. And so any place where you can put up gates where people are forced to consider those problems is such a great thing, even in easy current. And people can find it really confounding to do it well in easy current when they don't have practice.
Yeah, I think just that process of sort of like analyzing problems and like doing the same course and the same moves over and over again, like connecting between like what you're seeing and what you're thinking with what you're doing, rather than just doing everything by feel without thinking about it. I think, it's the same thing that you're doing when you're running class 5, right? Because it's like you can't just go out there and wing it and hope it goes better the next time. It's like you got to like look at that rapid and make a plan and visualize the plan and then execute on it. And I think, especially for kids who are kind of just used to like winging everything, getting acclimated to that like analysis aspect, I think is good.
Sure.
I like it. One thing I will say about hanging gates is that if you're going to put them there permanently, make sure they're well above the flood line. Because somebody hung some gates on the French Broad River, and I was out there at like 20-something thousand CFS, and they were like right at waist level. And it came up quick. So that's all I'll say. Just do it.
Yeah, it's like if you hang gates, like you got to be responsible. It's like getting a puppy. It's like you are responsible for that thing.
Yeah. And as far as like learning technique, I mean, as much as you can cross currents and turn upstream, cross currents and turn downstream, cross currents and go straight. I mean, that's where all of the difficulty in kayak happens, is when, different speed currents. One more listener mail here, and we'll see if James gets on. If not, I don't even know. Longtime contributor, writer, listener, Simon Wyndham wants the details on the Ottawa River ban. It says here on the show note, what's he talking about? So, what was going on? Are you guys aware of this on the Ottawa?
No.
So the Ottawa got really high this year. They had epic snowpack. The snows just kept going. It got to record flows. I think the highest it had ever been recorded. And they shut down all access to the river. They wouldn't let anybody commercially or recreationally get on the water until the water went down. So that's what he's talking about. They have since lifted that ban. But they did have it in place for, close to a month. I know it was to the point where the guys, what's the big rafting outfit up there?
They closed Ottawa for a month?
for a long period of time. Yeah, all the access points and whatever, and it went way deep into the commercial rafting season. And the commercial rafting guys were like, "Look, we know enough to go on the other channels where the bad we'll adjust our course. It's not a big deal." But they shut everybody down, and I know eventually they lifted that. But that's what he's talking about there.
Bunch of nanny state liberals up there in Canada, eh?
Exactly.
Come down here to America where we're free.
Right.
Well,
free to run Ohio Falls at exactly 1.79.
Dude, did you see the dudes who took the commercial raft over the Ohio Falls at high water?
I saw that Good Morning America.
Yeah,
it was insane.
Did you get the details on that?
Yeah, it was just a group of rafters. The Yaak has been flooding all summer, as with everything in the East Coast, and it was the highest descent of Ohio Falls, the highest water level descent of Ohio Falls that I know of. It has been 6 feet or something. And these group of 5 people in a raft missed the takeout for the middle Yaak and were floating over Ohio Falls. I mean,
dude, the video is priceless.
If I saw that happening, I'd be like, these people are about to drown. There's no way they're going to make it out of that thing.
And they kind of did all right. It didn't look like a bad swim.
I'll swing them out, but yeah. I think they ran where they ran it, I think, was the perfect place to run it. They were very fortunate in that regard. Because I've seen some bad swims in Ohio Falls at low water during the freestyle over the falls competition. We used to be people getting subbed out for a good 15 count, which is a long time to be underwater. And this is at 1.7.
Did you see that video, Lewis?
I think so.
Dude, I was blown away. I laughed. I laughed pretty hard. All right, fellas. Well, we're going to have to push James back to the next show. I'm really interested in this whole, he has a video attached and all kinds of things that we need to study about the emancipator stroke. It's basically used to proactively escape unwanted hole rides, which I think all of us would like a stroke to get us out of holes.
This is hurting my shoulders thinking about it.
The emancipator stroke?
Yeah, it feels painful already.
Well, at an hour and something, are we at 2 hours yet? God, we're so over time.
I'm on the phone with you guys for 2.5 hours. I got to go back to work.
I know, seriously.
Well, welcome to everybody's favorite part. What are you guys talking about? We haven't talked in it's been 6 weeks or something, I went through a state of depression there. Pulled myself out of it. All right, now everybody's favorite segment of the show. It is our Rants and Raves. This is where your hosts go on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave about something that is shining bright or dark and dim. Who would like to lead us off on this one? I know that Lewis is fired up. Go for it.
Dude, I got a rave, man.
Sick!
Yeah, I'm prepared. It only took me 6 weeks of waiting, and I got a rave.
Everybody give a collective.
I'm going to rave about the U.S. Junior Women's K1 Slalom team. Junior Worlds and Under 23 Worlds just happened in Krakow, Poland. My good buddy Scotty Parsons was in town last week, and I got to sit around and watch the Junior and U23 Worlds with Scotty and Isaac, which is just the best time, very Hammer Factor vibe. We discussed the possibilities of having YouTube channel that's going to be alternate World Cup commentary.
It's like Mystery Science fun. Theater meets slalom.
Super fun. And, but anyway.
So Scotty Parsons is one of our country's best slalom K1 paddlers, right?
Yeah, 4-time Olympian, best paddler of our generation.
Just to be clear on that one, yeah.
Best male paddler.
So anyway, we got to watch the Junior Worlds, and U.S. Junior Women just crushed it. All 3 girls in the final: Madison Corcoran, Rhea Strebar, and Evie Liebfarth, who got a bronze medal and has been she's 15 years old, I think, and just been slaying in the World Cups. You're not actually allowed to race senior World Cups until I think you're 15. So she just turned 15 and promptly has made the final in kayak and C1 in every World Cup. And I don't know. I mean, slalom has gone through some like pretty dark days here in the U.S. There's a handful of you know legit slalom racers in the U.S. for sure, but like the field is not deep, and it's just like super cool to see some really young badass paddlers slaying. I mean, 3 boats in the final at Junior Worlds is like that is legit, and I don't know. It's just really cool to see some bright signs out there for the future of slalom in the U.S. and huge congrats to those girls on slaying it at Junior Worlds. It was sick to watch.
I like that one. You know, if you guys would have emailed me back, I was going to try and get one of those guys on the show.
Yeah, we should get Evie on. That'd be sick.
Yeah, maybe I could get her here in the studio. She
Yeah,
just
dude.
lives right down the road. Mr. Weld.
Yeah, I got a rave. Upper Yacht Race, 39th year. Record number of women paddlers, if I understand correctly, since we're talking women paddlers. My wife, Kara, the race gets put on with, IR in conjunction with Wilderness Voyagers, but I think ostensibly Kara runs the show. So I want to give her props for doing that because it's a lot of work for sure. But her goal next year is to have, for the 40th year, 40 women race the Upper Yacht Race, which would be pretty close to half the field.
That's a great goal.
So women paddlers in the East Coast, take note. Next year, Upper Yacht Race, 40 women. But what a great race. I think it's the oldest quote-unquote extreme race in the country, right? Is there one older than that?
I don't know. I mean, it's, the definition of extreme changes from time to time, but like as a true, like just downriver race like that, I mean, I can't think of anything older.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do we do up there? If you're going to bring people in, people are going to travel from all over the place. What's going to happen? They're going to get the race, obviously.
Yeah.
So we need a campground. We need some place to build a bonfire and have a party. We need something.
Well, there's talk about years ago the Upper Yacht Race had a party associated with it. I think there's talk about bringing that back. They have a festival grounds there in Friendsville. I'm not sure exactly. As with most of these things, I'm sure there's politics involved, or at least some considerations have to be made to make this happen. But I think they're looking into that. But the way it rains now, if you come to travel to the Upper Yacht, you're going to have a ton of whitewater to paddle while you're there. Certainly the Lower Yacht will be running. The Cheat will probably be running the way things go. So it'll be a great time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I have a rave, and I kind of feel like I should come out with a rant because you guys all had raves. I can rant about the poop bags thing again, because in Telluride, dude, you think in Asheville it's bad? I mean, those little cute poop bags, and they've got these cute little pink poop bags and just all these.
Are these
colors.
biodegradable?
I don't know. I don't even understand the whole reason. Anyway, I don't want to get stuck on the rant, but that's my rant. Poop bags. It's out of control. It's out of control. They had to have a whole new dispenser put in Bent Creek because there's just poop in poop bags everywhere.
My friend Walter Webert, who I think listens to the show, wrote me an email the other day about poop bags. It's a thing.
It's ridiculous. But I want to rave about the squirt boating community. And the Jimmy Cup that just happened, this is an event that's been going on for 20 years, over 20 years. Next weekend on the Hiawassee River is the Downtime World Championships. This is the World Championships of sink boating, which is different than squirt boating. But anyway, I'm going to head over. I'm going to go over for the day. I'm going to sleep in a cabin over there and check it all out. And then you got to check out, and I'll put them in the show notes. If you want to see some cool videos, Brian Knight brings this whole rig, scuba gear, the whole 9 yards. I don't think he's got scuba gear, but he's out there in flippers and the whole 9 yards. He has got the best YouTube channel. I'll put a link to it of all of these squirt. Oh, it's a Vimeo channel actually, of all of these squirt videos he's put together. So I'm just going to rave about the niche of the niche of the niche, squirt boating.
How long can you watch underwater videos of people doing mystery moves without getting nauseous?
Dude, you have to check out this YouTube channel, Brian.
I think it's cool,
video,
and like when I start watching it, I feel like car sick in like 30 seconds.
No,
let me ask you a question. So the video, you watch a guy paddle to an eddy line, and then disappear, and then he's gone for some period of time, then he reappears.
No,
That's what you're watching?
You're following him underwater, and there's fish, and he's dodging off things, and he's like going down, and you can see like, he's holding his breath. He wants to get to the surface, but he knows he's got to get hypoxic, and then he comes up, but then he's got a little boil, keeps him down. It can get stressful. This is the Downtime World Championship. Don't underestimate it. Leslie.
Do you have a squirt boat, Grace?
No. But I want to get another one.
That's on my list of dubious low water summer activities I might have to get into if things don't improve out here. It's either a surf ski or a squirt boat.
You should get a paddleboard, dude. Get yourself a 14-foot paddleboard. Get some downwinders.
We need to get some of those.
I'm in a drug habit. I could just start doing opioids until the winter rains come.
Yeah, we need to get those big surf kayaks, those epic surf things.
Surf
Scotty
ski.
makes. Yeah,
dude,
skis.
there's like 2 for sale on Craigslist in the Dalles for like $1,200 each. Going on together.
I want to get my 210 lefty wing paddle back.
Dude, that's a crazy culture, man. I was talking to these guys who went to this race, and the current was a lot stronger. And they do moving water races and those things, but they're not with any kind of like hard white water. And this was on a big river. It was actually, I think, on the Ohio River, it was on the Missouri River. And they all like paddled out of this, I don't know, marina. It wasn't a creek. It was like a creek, but it was really just a marina where they dredged it out. And they like had to go out into the current, go down like a few miles, come back upstream around a buoy, and come back in. Well, dude, they had like 80 of these people, and those boats cost. I mean, what do they cost new? $5,000-$6,000, something like that.
Dude, this race that was in the gorge here that Scotty was in town for, the Gorge Downwind Championships, surf skis. Grace, you wanna take a guess how many participants there were?
120.
800.
See, okay, so it was like a big crowd like that. Yeah. I don't know how many people it was.
This town was thick with those boats. They were everywhere.
Yeah.
It was like imagine like a Prius with 7 20-foot long boats on top of it. That's exactly what it was like.
So anyway, they're in this race, and there's just a mass people starting this marina. It's a mass start event. I don't want to inflate the numbers, but I know it was over 100 people. And they go out into the current, and the current was flowing a lot faster than they thought. And just downstream is this parked barge. Okay? Like a big parked barge. Dude, they go out in these boats that have like negative rocker. They're just can't turn them. It's worse than this wild water boat that Weld about killed me in. And they go out in the current, and dude, they all just get instantly blown sideways into this barge, and they are just all flipping and going under. And on the upstream side of this barge, there's this dude shows me a picture on his phone. It's like pickup sticks with these $6,000 boats all tangled up on it. People are swimming, gasping. Oh my God! And what's the guy's name who owns Epic? He'd be good to have on this show. Yeah. They are all like pissed. They all brought these brand new Epic boards. They're like $6,000, and dude, he's a genius. They all get out, and he's like, "Send them to me. They'll be great practice boats. We'll get you in a new one soon enough." Sure enough, they all bought new boats. Like whatever, but I just the picture he showed me and his description of all of these people just getting washed into this barge, priceless. Anyway, that's it for this episode of the Hammer Factor. Thanks for listening. We'll be back the first of the month, so in 3 days.
Oh, man.